24시간 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News. President Yoon strengthens his will to push ahead with major reforms in the medical, education, pension, and labor sectors, despite opposing vested powers. His remarks came during policy discussions with citizens that resumed after the general election. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing agreed to further cooperation and more communication. From North Korea to semiconductor supply chains, issues of mutual concern were on the agenda in a 4-hour meeting. South Korea has warned Japan that when it comes to Naver, it should not take any action that goes against the interests of the Korean firm. Rival party lawmakers are denouncing Japan's moves to pressure the Korean company. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with what President Yoon calls Season 2 of policy discussions, resuming them after the general election. Earlier today, he vowed to push ahead with major reforms despite opposing vested powers. Also highlighted were ways to protect vulnerable contract and freelance workers in the labor market. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon leads us off.
After nearly a 50-day pause from policy discussions with citizens because of the elections, President Yoon returned to these meetings on Tuesday, immediately showing his motivation to finish off his 4 major reform priorities in the medical, education, pension, and labor sectors, despite strong resistance from vested interests.
뭔가를 빼앗기는 쪽에서는 정말 정권 퇴진 운동을 하게 되는 겁니다. 그래서 정말 어떤 개혁을 해 나간다는 것이 대단히 어렵습니다. 그렇지만 그런 정치적 유불리를 따지지 않고 제가 제 임기 동안 반드시 문제를 짚고 넘어가야 되겠다.
Such comments come against the backdrop of a prolonged standoff with doctors who oppose the government's medical reform plan, which aims to increase the enrollment quota for medical schools, leading to more medical practitioners. Meanwhile, today's policy discussion centered on protecting vulnerable workers, with the president meeting non-union workers such as those in the delivery and construction fields, and even artists. Yoon vowed that his government would speed up labor reform to tackle polarization due to market segmentation. He also discussed how the country can better care for the marginalized self-employed and freelancers, such as pushing for a new law.
이 법은 미조직 근로자들이 질병, 상해, 실업을 겪었을 때 경제적으로 도움을 받을 수 있는 공제회 설치를 지원하고 또 노동 약자들이 분쟁을 조속히 해결하고 제대로 보호받을 수 있도록 분쟁 조정 협의회 설치를 담고 있습니다.
In addition, the president said it was time for the country to consider a court dealing solely with labor cases, both criminal and civil, so that they can be all handled under one system. He ordered his aides to begin work so that the relevant legal basis could be determined before the end of his term.
이런 체불 임금이라든가 이런 노동자들의 피해 또 더 큰 이슈들이 종합적으로 다뤄질 수 있는 노동법원의 설치가 이제는 우리가 적극 검토할 단계가 이제 됐다고 봅니다.
President Yoon also said that today's event kicked off Season 2 of his policy discussions, hinting that the presidential office will resume meeting citizens in different regions nationwide and those involved in various industries. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
In Beijing, South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, in a 4-hour meeting, agreed for stronger communication and cooperation, touching upon a number of mutual issues, including North Korea and semiconductor supply chains. Our Kim Jong-sil covers this latest diplomatic interaction.
Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol met with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Monday in Beijing. His 2-day trip to China came at the invitation of Wang, the director of the Office of China's Central Commission for Foreign Affairs. Minister Cho said to open up a new era for Seoul and Beijing, it was important to build a foundation for sustainable development by improving mutual trust. He said the two countries must continue developing a strategic partner relationship based on mutual respect, benefit, and common interest. Director Wang said the two countries established each other as strategic partners in 2008, giving each other more important diplomatic positions. But he pointed out that difficulties and challenges have increased since then and proposed to work together face-to-face to promote a healthy and stable relationship without interference. In the 4-hour meeting, the two discussed issues of mutual concern such as the situation on the Korean Peninsula, including the North Korean nuclear threat, as well as semiconductor supply chains. Foreign Minister Cho also invited Director Wang to visit Seoul, which he agreed to do.
You can tell that the two sides tried to create an atmosphere by avoiding provocative words, and it can be read that the two sides were using the opportunity of high-level talks to create new momentum for bilateral relations.
The meeting between the two foreign ministers came ahead of a trilateral summit between Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing, scheduled for later this month. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
South Korea has warned Japan that when it comes to Naver, it should not take any action that goes against the interests of the Korean firm. The remarks come from the presidential office on Tuesday, stressing that it'll closely watch for and strongly deal with any unfair measures. This is regarding South Korean online platform giant Naver facing pressure from the Japanese government to sell its shares in Line Yahoo, the company behind Japan's popular messaging app Line, after a data leak. Noting the Japanese government's reiteration that its administrative guidance is not related to the firm's control rights, the top office says it'll provide full support to Naver if the Japanese government asks for stronger information security measures. And Japanese media are keeping an eye on this issue as it has started to create diplomatic and political problems following opposition political leaders in Korea criticizing Japan's moves to pressure the Korean company. Our Lee Si-hoo explains what could be behind these reports.
Many South Korean politicians, mostly from the opposition parties, have been actively voicing criticism of the Japanese government's moves to pressure South Korea's Naver to sell its stake in Line Yahoo, the company behind Japan's most predominant messaging app Line. And several reports from Japanese media outlets show that they are keen to follow such remarks from South Korean politicians. The liberal Tokyo Shimbun newspaper reported Tuesday that South Korean media are reporting critically on the issue. It quoted main opposition Democratic Party of Korea leader Lee Jae-myung's Facebook post on Saturday, which called attention to the fact that Japanese Minister for Internal Affairs and Communications, Matsumoto Takeaki, was the grandson of Ito Hirobumi, the first Japanese resident general of Korea who worked to initiate Japanese colonial rule of South Korea since the early 1900s. Lee's post read that Ito plundered the land of Korea while his grandson is conducting, quote, an invasion of Korea's cyber territory Line, while at the same time criticizing the South Korean government's passive response. Many Japanese newspapers also responded to the liberal minor opposition Rebuilding Korea party leader Jo Guk's visit to Dokdo Island on Monday. While on the island, the former Minister of Justice urged the Yoon administration to warn Japan about its attempt to steal Line and claim the island as its own. The conservative Sankei reported on increasing discontent in public opinion in South Korea, while further citing a DP lawmakers group visit to Dokdo Island last month. However, there are differences in opinion among South Korean politicians. Ruling People Power Party lawmaker Yoon on Monday criticized what he called the opposition leader's provocative remarks, calling for cooperation across parties to resolve the issue. Regarding the issue, an expert on foreign relations shared with Arirang News that the Japanese news reports closely following South Korean politicians' remarks are misleading public opinion instead of dealing with the essential problem of the matter. 이시후, Arirang News.
South Korea's military conducted a joint air drill on Tuesday, aimed at defending the country against possible North Korean attacks. The exercise, led by the Air Force Operations Command, also involved the Navy, Army, and Marines, with more than 30 fighter jets, as well as surface-to-air missiles deployed to intercept more than 800 simulated targets. The Air Force explained that the drill was focused on improving the military's response to possible large-scale aerial attacks by North Korea. This comes following an increasing number of aerial attacks seen in conflict zones worldwide, such as Iran's launch of drones and missiles against Israel in April, has led to concerns over such airborne threats. President Yoon, during a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Tuesday afternoon, reaffirmed South Korea's commitment to supporting Ukraine. The presidential office revealed that the phone call took place at Zelensky's request and that Yoon said he welcomed the opportunity to speak with the Ukrainian president for the first time since the summit held in Kyiv in July last year. Yoon emphasized that South Korea will continue working with Ukraine to provide the necessary support for its citizens and that it'll actively join the international community's recovery and reconstruction efforts. In addition, Zelenskyy invited Yoon to the Ukraine Peace Summit, which is scheduled to take place in Switzerland on June 15th and 16th. The Israeli military has resumed fighting in northern Gaza, where it previously claimed to have dismantled Hamas command structure. This has raised doubts about whether Israel's goal to eradicate the group in the enclave is realistic. Shin Ha-young has the details.
As Israel ramps up its offensive in Rafah and re-enters northern areas of Gaza, previously claimed to be clear of Hamas command structure, CNN reports that there are growing doubts about Israel's military strategy. The Israeli military, after withdrawing forces from northern Gaza, deployed tanks back into the Zabalia refugee camp on Saturday, citing Hamas' attempt to reassemble in the area. CNN reports that this renews questions about its long-term military strategy, which has left more than 35,000 Palestinians dead, while more than 100 Israeli hostages are still held captive and Hamas top leadership remaining at large. Controversy is also surrounding the justification of the Rafah attack. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has emphasized the necessity of ground operations in Rafah to eradicate Hamas. However, citing U.S. intelligence, the New York Times reported on Sunday that Hamas top leader is reportedly not hiding in Rafah, where Israel is preparing for a ground operation. U.S. officials claim that Israeli intelligence agencies agree with this assessment. The New York Times pointed out that this could weaken the legitimacy of Israel's military move in Rafah. Meanwhile, according to Reuters, Israeli forces advanced deep into northern areas of Gaza on Monday to recapture an area from Hamas fighters, while in the south, tanks and troops pushed across a highway into Rafah. Israeli operations in Rafah have closed a main crossing point for aid. Following Israel's attack in northern Gaza on Saturday, Hamas Health Ministry reported on Sunday that at least 63 people were killed in the past 24 hours. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
The Biden administration has announced a fresh set of tariffs on Chinese goods ahead of November's presidential election. The White House announced on Tuesday that President Biden has quadrupled tariffs on electric vehicles from China from the current 25% to 100%. Tariffs on key items such as steel and aluminum, as well as lithium-ion EV batteries, were also raised to 25%, and solar cells and semiconductors to 50%. The new measures are set to impact $18 billion worth of goods imported from China. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken paid an unexpected visit to Ukraine to show that the country has support of Washington. This comes after Russia intensified its actions in the northeastern city of Kyiv. An Sung-jin brings us the latest.
Antony Blinken arrived in Kyiv on Tuesday to bring reassurance to the Ukrainians in the form of U.S. support. The Secretary of State's visit to Ukraine was unannounced and entered the country via Poland. This is the first visit by a senior U.S. official since Congress passed a $95 billion foreign aid package that includes nearly $61 billion for Ukraine. Washington has stated that it is trying to accelerate its delivery of aid to the country.
On Friday, he signed out another package. Some of that equipment will get onto the battlefield this week.
This marks Blinken's fourth visit to Kyiv since Russia launched its attack in February 2022. His visit comes amid Ukrainian setbacks on the battlefield as Russia continues to push into northeastern Ukraine after making several major advances over the past week, including a new offensive in the Kharkiv region on Friday. This forced thousands of residents to evacuate. A senior Ukrainian official says that the Russian defense minister being replaced signifies a major shakeup to the country's dynamics.
Stripping Shoigu of the defense minister position and the appointment of Mr. Belousov means the need to substantially reduce the amount of corruption. Without a doubt, these changes that we see today, they testify to the complete transformation of the Russian Federation. It will be a militaristic country.
Russian forces are continuing their advance on Ukraine as they took over more than 10 villages alongside the border of Kharkiv. An official from Ukraine's general staff admitted that the enemy had tactical success in the fight for Vovchansk on Monday, where some of the fiercest fighting is being conducted. Russian forces continued their advance on Ukraine's northern Kharkiv region on Monday, while the Ukrainian military says it has been pushing the enemy back as well, by appointing a new general to take command of the front lines. Fears remain that Moscow may soon push further into the country. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
OpenAI has revealed its new AI model, GPT-4o, that's capable of real-time human-like conversation. Our Moon Hye-ryun has the details.
With OpenAI's newly improved artificial intelligence model, it's now possible to have real-time, realistic conversations with AI. At a demonstration to show the new GPT-4o AI model on Monday, a tester informed the AI chatbot that he was feeling nervous about doing the live demo, and was met with this response.
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome! Just take a deep breath. And remember, you're the expert here.
With the O in the name standing for Omni, which means all, further demonstrations showed it to be capable of performing a wide range of functions, from providing helpful solutions and solving math equations written on a sheet of paper, to being able to adopt tonal attitudes such as sarcasm for a more chatty feel. The responses also come faster than the previous ChatGPT model. OpenAI claims that the average response takes 320 milliseconds to process, which is said to be similar to real human response times in conversation. The improvements made to audio and visual understanding are what enabled this, and the firm is confident that it will make a big difference for users.
For the past couple of years, we've been very focused on improving the intelligence of these models, and they've gotten pretty good. But this is the first time that we are really making a huge step forward when it comes to the ease of use.
Since ChatGPT's launch 2 years ago, it has generated around 100 million active weekly users, and the company claims that more than 9 in 10 Fortune 500 companies are using the platform. With OpenAI hoping to stay ahead of its competition such as Google, it will make this new model's text and image capabilities available for all users, including non-subscribers with usage limits, while giving its paid subscribers early access to the voice mode in the coming weeks. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
In entertainment, The action-packed film franchise, The Roundup, has recorded the largest ever cumulative box office admissions for a South Korean series. According to the Korea Film Council, the latest addition to the series, Punishment, has recorded around 9.8 million moviegoers less than a month since its release, bringing the cumulative admissions for the series to more than 40 million. And the fourth installment in the crime action franchise is expected to join the second and third in surpassing 10 million viewers on Wednesday, which is a holiday in Korea. This will also mark the first time that 3 films in a South Korean franchise have each achieved the 10 million viewer milestone. Leading experts and scholars gathered in Seoul for the annual security conference, ASEAN Plenum 2024. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung turned to some experts for their take on how Asia can maintain peace amid persistent threats from North Korea.
U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell has stressed the importance of trilateral cooperation between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo to confront threats posed by North Korea. The remarks came in a virtual address on Tuesday at an annual security conference held in Seoul, ASEAN Plenum 2024.
Both alliances have transformed from primarily security-focused relationships to truly comprehensive global partnerships with impacts reverberating far beyond the Indo-Pacific.
ASEAN Plenum 2024, hosted by South Korea's ASEAN Institute for Policy Studies, was attended by more than 50 scholars, former government officials, and experts from home and abroad. At this year's conference, experts sought to put Asia in a position to achieve and maintain peace and prosperity in the face of new challenges, especially with regard to North Korea's evolving threats to security. Sumi Terry, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, said the focus should be on risk reduction through sanctions.
The international environment right now is favorable for North Korea because sanctions are not being enforced, with China abstaining and Russia vetoing the panel of experts and all of that. China and Russia are not helping at all.
Meanwhile, Bruce Bennett, defense researcher at the Rand Corporation, said the current deterrence methods are not working.
I think we have to take a very serious attitude on trying to coerce them into stopping. I think we have to do that by taking advantage of information.
Moving forward, experts say perhaps the single most important thing is to work with China, as Beijing has made clear repeatedly that it doesn't support the actual use of nuclear weapons. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Unlike the warm and sunny weather today, there's more rain forecast all over the country for tomorrow. Rain will start tomorrow morning in the center and northern parts of the country, including Seoul, and expand to other parts in the afternoon. As for the amount of rain, up to 100 millimeters is expected in the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province and up to 60 in northern Gyeongsang-buk-do province. In Seoul and other inland areas will have 5 to 40 millimeters. There's a possibility of snow falling in the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province, where temperatures will drop overnight. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will start off at 14 degrees Celsius. It will move up to 18 in Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Jeju, 22 degrees. The rain will mostly stop tomorrow night in most areas, but Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces will continue to have rain until Thursday morning. The weather will be cool as it rains. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching and good night.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's lying? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive,